My first name is Shavarsh, and my surname is Bedrossian, and I'm 82. To tell the story of my story as a descendant of the genocide, you have to begin from the very beginning of the Armenian story. It's a 3,000-year story, and you cannot separate our character from our history. We have survived. At the time where we were conquered by others, we kept our culture, we kept our songs, we kept our alphabet, which is a unique alphabet, and we are the first Christian nation in the world.
I'm reading my mother's story. It is a fascinating record, fascinating story. How she survived, it's unbelievable.
Sharing Armenian story is very important for me. The reason is that not many people know about our history, because today Armenia is a very small country. We don't have oil, we don't have anything anybody wants. It's a Belgium-sized country with only 3 million. Now our story is very interesting to me, and it should be interesting for people who know, who loves history. I want them to know about the genocide. The reason we want them to know, so they know what happened to us, and it can happen again. And I want them to understand that it shouldn't happen, not to Armenians, not to anyone. The Armenian genocide started in 1894 to 96. They started at the Van area, which is what we call today is Western Armenia. 300,000 were butchered, and then the big one came in 1915. 1915, they were collected in Istanbul, all the leaders of the Armenian doctors, lawyers, leaders, priests, archbishops, and 240, 250 of them, and they killed them, so the Armenian people didn't have any leaders. Now, during that first year, 1915 to 1916, 1.5 million Armenians were butchered or driven to the desert of the Syrian desert, which we call it Derzor. And until today, if you went to this desert area, you can find bones that the local people will say these are the Armenians' bones. Now they were pushed and make them walk without any food and drinks, and they died in the desert. Some survived, very few survived. They ended up in Syria, and then they went to Lebanon. My both parents were the result of this genocide. They have extraordinary survival histories and stories to tell. My father's name is Takvor. Takvor, it means king in Armenian. And he was born in Caesarea, so we think my father was born 1909 or thereabouts. My father's surname is Bedrossian. The way he explained it, they made them walk all the way to Syria, but before they came to the Syrian border, the war ended. They went back. They thought they can go back and regain their land and houses or whatever, but they saw that the Turks took over their land, their houses. They had an uncle in Izmir. Izmirnia is in the Greek name. It used to be it is on the Mediterranean, and it was a Greek city. So they thought they can go to their uncle. So they did go to their uncle. Now, what happened is 1922, Ataturk, he attacked Izmirnia, and in 1922, and he took over Izmirnia. He pushed all the Christian subjects, like Armenians and Greeks, into churches and burned them. Some escaped. My father was visiting his uncle, a shop in the city, and the trouble started, so they told him to go find his way, and he saw that people running towards the pier. There were 5 nation ships in the harbor. One was French, one was English, one was Italian, Japanese, and Greek ship. He remembered many people jumping in the water trying to get on the ships. The first ship, they throw him out. He swam again back, and second ship, they throw him out again. He had nothing, he had just a shorts probably at the time, and what happened is the third time, it turned up to a Greek ship. And this Greek ship, they said, you're Armenian. He said, yes, I'm Armenian, so they took him to Greece. When I said to Greece, it's one of the islands of Greece, Syros. Syros is a small island, very rich. They had palaces, and they converted the palaces to orphanages by American missionaries. And he ended up in orphanages run by American missionaries in Syros. There was an Armenian section of orphanages. So he stayed there until later on they moved him to Egypt. My father was about 14 years old. So the rule was, if you are 14, you look after yourself. You're a man. Those days, it was like that. He got with another two boys from the same orphanage in Syros, and they hired a room, and they lived together until they found jobs, until they found themselves what to do with themselves. Now, my mother's story is a bit different. My mother was born in a village called Chengiler. Chengiler now is Sugaren, they changed the name. And my mother was born 1911 or 1912. My mother's name, it was Mariam. But what happened is through the years, they kept changing her name. It ended up to be Mary. People must understand there are no birth certificates when they left their country or their towns or their villages. And this is the best they could do it. Chengiler now is Sugaren. They moved all the Armenians out of it and pushed them towards the Syrian desert. They walked it's a long distances for a 3-year-old to walk. So when they reached the Syrian desert, one of his brothers, Abraham, he had 3 brothers and 1 sister. And Abraham thought she couldn't survive the desert walk without food, without drink, so he found a Bedouin. Bedouin is the desert people. And he gave my mother to this Bedouin to look after her. We don't know how many days she stayed with them, but that Bedouin gave my mother, because she was Armenian and they were Muslim, they gave it to a Turkish family. Now the Turkish family looked after her, and this went on and on and on. They gave my mother to another family, another Armenian family that still exists, and they went back to Turkey somehow. So when she went to Turkey with these families, at the end she ended up with some Armenian families, and the Armenian families gave her to another missionary organization by American organizations that they run orphanages. Now, at the end, they took a boat to go to Istanbul. Istanbul was already, after the war, was okay to, and there were so many Armenians still living there. From there, they stayed in some families, and they stayed in some orphanages, again, run by Armenians or American missionaries. Later on, they moved them to another Greek island, Corinthos. So she stayed in Corinthos until such time, 1924 or 25, she couldn't remember, that they transported them to Egypt. She could have been 9 years old, maximum. My mother being 9 or 10, they had to put her to an Armenian, well-to-do Armenian family that they should look after her. However, they used her as a servant, okay? And she had a terrible time with them. Now, and they also moved from village to village in Egypt, and they ended up, at the end, they ended up in Heliopolis. My mother was used as an au pair with this Armenian family until she was 16. They had 3 brothers and 1 daughter. And she thought if she can do this, she can earn money by becoming au pair to English families. She wanted to learn English. To cut the story short, she became au pair, live-in au pair for English families. This went on until she was 28 or 29. And then she started, obviously, at that time, she was earning a bit of money, living for free, eating free, and she started to go to church, Armenian church. And then, after the church, they go to the hall. Now, my father did the same thing. After they start working here and there, on Sundays, they go to church. After the church, they go to the hall and meet each other, and it started to organize picnics, outings. I don't think they could afford to go to restaurants, but they get together. And that's where they met each other. For a while, they were just friends. And my mother thought my father was very nice and young and a strong personality, very kind, and they ended up, 1939, they ended up getting married. As you know, the custom is for the father to give away the daughter at the wedding, right? But because she didn't have a father, but she had this brother that escaped the genocide to Bulgaria. So I found their wedding invitation, and the brother Abraham says that I'm giving my sister to Takfor, my father, and it's very touching. Now the other interesting thing is the invitation is in 2 languages, Armenian and French. I must say that the French was a social language in Egypt. Everybody, not locals, but everybody else or educated people, they had to speak French. And then they lived in Cairo, in a 2-bedroom house, 2-bedroom apartment. And then my mother became pregnant with my brother. They booked her to the Italian hospital. Just when she was born, she gave birth to my brother, they had to think about, they had to move because the apartment was small. So they moved this Heliopolis. Heliopolis was a new suburb. When we say suburbs in Egypt, it's not like suburbs in Australia or in Sydney. There were only 11 suburbs. This suburb was very unique. It's one of the best suburbs in Cairo. This Heliopolis was a desert. Why it is Heliopolis? Heliopolis is Helio and polis. Helio meaning sun or light, and polis is a city. Heliopolis is about 7 to 9 kilometers northeast of Cairo. It was a new suburb. So I was born in Heliopolis in our apartment. It was 1944. What I remember is we had 2 big balconies, one in the back and one in the front. We used to play a lot in the balconies, and you could see the pyramids 35 kilometers away on a clear day. Now you can't do it because it's so dusty. But I was very happy. My mother looked after us. They loved us very much. Obviously, coming as an orphan, all of a sudden they had family. So they looked after us so well. We were their princes, okay? Another thing I remember that my mom, she used to put me on this dresser, high dresser, and she used to dress me. And at the same time, she used to sing this sad song, Dele Yama. And when I started to become 3 or 4, I started to go to the kindergarten, Merjanyan. It was called Merjanyan. And after that, I started to go to Numbaryan. After Numbaryan, when I was 10, 12, I think, I went to, there was another Armenian school in Cairo, secondary. So I went to the secondary school. Now, growing up in Heliopolis, going to school, Armenian school in Heliopolis and Armenian school in Cairo, I became a scout to start with. And then I became a basketball player. Our team was very famous, and it was one of the 12 top teams of Egypt. Okay, but we had a very healthy and fun life in Heliopolis. We had parties every week. We had excursions organized, and that's how I am very organized. I'm very social. We had a very healthy teenagehood, young, active. It was something dancing. We had parties organized and everything in these clubs. The Armenian sporting club, and there were some other clubs, social clubs as well. And one of them I became Antony and Cleopatra. And one of the pictures you see that. We used to ride horses at the pyramids. So at one time we decided that we should do night horse riding. So we used to get there right before the sun set. We used to ride the horses. There was a tent city. It was a nightclub in the desert. So we used to ride these horses to the nightclub up to 3 o'clock in the morning, dancing and eating and so. At 3 o'clock, when they start shutting, we get on the horse and we come to the stables. The horse knows this way. Then we used to book Auberge de Pyramide. It still exists. This Auberge de Pyramide hotel is exceptional hotel. All the big prime ministers, presidents, actors, American actors, European actors used to come and stay there because from their room you could see the pyramids. And we used to hire one room to get dressed and have a swim, have breakfast, and then go home. And this is something that nowhere else in the world does. As teenagers, 18-year-old, 20-year-old, nobody can do these things. And it was fantastic. I'm just trying to explain that we had a fantastic life. Now, after that, I had to make up my mind, what do I want to do? Where do I go from here? My father asked me, what do you want to do? I said, I want to become a historian. And he said, look son, look at your godfather, he's so poor, he's a historian. So we became engineer. There were two parts. There were the workshop and the theories. All Italian, eh? There was no Arabic, there was no Armenian. I had to learn Italian very quickly to attend mathematics classes, history classes. The good thing about learning other languages, you learn about their geography, you learn about not only language, but customs and history. But unfortunately, there were so many wars. 1947-49, there was a Palestine war. My father lost a job apparently. Then 1952, there was the King Farouk's abdication. They burned the city. My father had with an Indian friend, they had a leather shop right in front of this Shepherd's Hotel, which used to be one of the magnificent hotels at the time in the world. They burned it. These radicals, the Muslim radicals, they burned the hotel, so my father lost his work. So then he started something else. Then there was Suez, 1956, there was Suez War. Okay, so my father again lost his job. We didn't go to school. Now, after that, there was 67 war. So by then my father started, with a partner, started a bookstore in Semiramis Hotel. Semiramis Hotel was one of the best hotels, international hotels at the time in Egypt. So again, he said to us, this is not on, it's why don't you guys immigrate somewhere? So at the end, we had to make up our minds. I came to Australia 2nd October 1967. It was so clean. It was so, it was no dust. And that's what my first impression. The kids were discouraged to speak any other language than English. And that was a distressing for me because we were taught to learn as many languages as possible. What else I can say about, there were so many good things. The good thing was the beaches, because from where Heliopolis or Cairo, to go to the beach we had to go to Alexandria, Port Said or Suez. And here all you can do is about 15 minutes you can go to Balmoral. The beach was very attractive and I thought myself, I can live here. There was a newspaper those days that you could find employment. And I applied, but I couldn't get anything in my trade, electrical engineering. So after 3 weeks I had to make something, so I went to this employment office. They sent me to a factory in Artarman, and I did just labor until Varush came in November, and I went to the boss. I said, I've been here for 6 months, can I have another $2? They said, no, you have to wait until financial year. I said, bugger you guys. I took 3 days off and I started to look for a technical, back to my background. I was lucky. To cut the story short, I got a job just up here in Lenkov West. I started as a draftsman, okay, because our qualifications were not accepted as engineers, okay. And I was lucky that the chief engineers, they interviewed me. He was very well traveled. He said, I don't care where, the science is the same around the world. And he said, I'll give you a chance. You start from the second year as a second year and see what happens in 3 months. Within a year, I became top because he knew that I'm capable of. I must have been smart and pushed myself to become accepted as a top engineer of electrical engineer and lighting engineer in one of the big firms. And I consulted myself as a subcontractor, and that's what we did. And then 1978, later on, I think, in 1980s, with my brother, we said, why don't we start our own company? And we started a new company. It was Shavarsh Proprietary Limited. I worked on major projects. Major projects were, I did 3 buildings in Elizabeth Street next to the Central Station, and I did the Park Hyatt Hotel, 165 rooms. I did the lighting and the electrical design. One of the major buildings is Chifley Tower. Okay, Chifley Tower is it's a big building, 120 square meters. 77,000 people working there, and they have a shopping mall. It's not like malls in Chatswood or so on. It's a boutique. And then I got engaged to design the next to the Opera House. We call it Benelong Point. Benelong buildings, 141 apartments, 7 restaurants. There is a swimming pool downstairs. There is Dandy Cinema, three theaters, and there is also opera or concert hall training center. It's all underneath. Not many people know that. Later on, I did design the Liverpool Hospital, a new wing. They built it. But I got engaged to design a university in Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi. When I say Abu Dhabi, it's not the city, it's the province. It was 150 kilometers from Dubai, 150 kilometers from Abu Dhabi in the desert. And they built this new university. It's not like our universities here, you start with 1 or 2 and then they keep building it. They build it all in one hit. But also they built it a section for the girls, a section for the boys. In May 1975, I started my travel. And I came back 18 months later. I started from Philippines to Hong Kong, to Bangkok, to India to Tehran to Lebanon, Damascus, Syria, Syria from Lebanon, I went to Armenia, I came back to Lebanon, I went to Syria to Turkey, Istanbul mainly, and then Greece, Italy, and so on. And I ended up in London, and I stayed in London. It was getting cold, and I didn't want to travel. I got a job in 2 days. Australians are very famous. They're good workers, and they give you a job straight away. And then at one point in time, I took some time off. I went to Spain, and then the time came. My idea was to go to Canada, because most of my childhood friends, they were in Montreal and Toronto, and Olympics was coming up, and I love sport. So I stayed for the Olympics. I enjoyed it very much. We enjoyed with my friends. It was like we were brothers. We were all descendant of the Armenian genocide. We didn't have uncles, and in Egypt we didn't have aunties, so we were cousins. And after that, I went to Vancouver. From Vancouver, I went to Japan. From Japan, I was there about 3 weeks. It was very expensive, and I was running out of money. So I thought I might as well get back to Sydney. My brother met Judith, in one of our gatherings, and they got married, and they ended up having 4 boys. And 4 boys is not easy to look after, so I became their godfather. In our customs, the godfather takes a lot of responsibilities. You look after them, you look after their education, you are responsible to them. So I was there from the very beginning, and so at the end they all went to Sydney Uni. They were very much loved boys, sport-wise, education, and they all became top guys. This is my mother's recipe. It's a lentil soup. I turned 82 last month, and life is very busy. There is something fixed every day. I belong to the Probus Hunters Hill. I belong to the Mentioned Hunters Hill and Ride, and I run the table tennis in Hunters Hill. My family now is everything. We are very lucky to have an extended family, because growing up without cousins, without aunties and uncles, now that we have extended family, 8 grandchildren, 4 nice families, they're all doing well, and we are very proud, and we get together because this home is very central to wherever they live. We do our Christmases, Easters, and major gatherings in this house, and this is my pleasure. This is my gift to them. We never give presents to their birthdays, never. We give love each other, and that's more important. That's lasting. It will be there forever and ever. They will remember that their uncle, their grandfather, or whatever loved them so much, and we spend time together. We talk to each other. We ask them about their life, and that's treasure, not the toy. Toy is nothing. Okay, you give time to each other. My advice to people is, one thing is, never say no, say yes first, and then work out how you can do it. The other advice I would give is that you must have an older friend that you can learn from their wisdom and experience. You must have a younger friend or teenage friends, so you can absorb their optimism and their energy. And you must have your own age friends, so you can have fun. And that's what I advise people to do. I'm Armenian. I'm the descendant of the Armenian genocide. My blood is Armenian. Come. I was born in Egypt. Egypt is my birthplace, and I loved it while we were there. And now I'm Australian. I've been here for 58 years, and I'm a part of the culture and everything Australian. We made one good choice. We came to Australia.